Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 100-Year Real Estate Investor. We're your hosts, Jake and Gino, and this is the show dedicated to long-term personal financial engineering. Gino, how's it going?
Jake, I'm doing great today, bro. How you doing?
I'm going to be talking about some child labor and working for $3.25 an hour, but that's later in the show. Today's guest is Teresa Kuhn, a respected wealth and retirement income strategist, financial educator, best-selling author, and business owner. She's also co-founder of the 100-Year Real Estate Investor and has helped clients with the dual asset strategy for over 20 years. So without further ado, Teresa, how's it going?
Hey, it's going great. Happy to be here.
We are happy to have you here because I know you have a story about investing in a tree farm utilizing the dual asset strategy. And before the show, we were talking. I cut my teeth in a tree farm. Okay, that was my first job on the books. Okay, I think I was about 14 or 15 years old, and it was paying $3.25 an hour. So is that what attracted you to investing in a tree farm? Was it the cheap labor, or is there something else to it? It's a true story, folks.
Is that where you learned your hustle from?
That's where the
Jake,
hustle comes from. It takes you gotta work long hours when you're making $3.25 an hour. Let me tell you,
$3.25 per hour. Everybody out there,
And
that is painful.
You didn't get tips.
Didn't get tips, but we got soup and salad for lunch. So.
Well, then you should have led with that.
And it was like a variety too. It wasn't like the same thing every day. So.
And Jake, I heard you're in Western New York. Are you sure you weren't in the Gulag or somewhere in Russia, like in Siberia somewhere?
Dude, I'm telling you, when I grew up, there was consistently 3 feet of snow on the ground. Okay, and it was economically depressed, so I may have been. Okay.
You know what, guys? I absolutely love self-made men. And I think today I'm on the show with two self-made men.
You got that.
That's
right.
where you started, Jake. Look where you are.
Now I'm wearing a pink shirt. The farmer would have been disappointed.
Both of you are wearing pink shirts. Did you coordinate that?
We did not. No, first time for everything,
right? It was on the top of the stack today. So.
That is too funny. Too funny. So the tree farm story, it's a great story, and it's a great example of how we use the dual asset strategy, right? But in this regard, actually, I'll say it's like a triple asset strategy because we really got 3 assets for the price of 1. You want to hear about it?
Of
I
course.
would love to.
It's super cool. Okay. So, real estate. Real estate comes in many different flavors, right? You've got multifamily, you've got we all know, right? Hard money lending, duplexes, apartment building. Like there's a bazillion different ways to invest in real estate. And guess what? Tree farms are a form of investing in real estate, one that most people don't really think about. But what do you get when you buy a tree farm or you buy land that you grow trees on?
Mm-hmm.
You get a business in addition to the real estate. Because selling trees is a very viable business. And so what we did about 10 years ago, we had an opportunity to buy a tree farm with a group of investors, partners, and it was with a gentleman who had developed an expertise in this really esoteric, weird way of growing trees. But he had proven in the many years that he had played around with his way of growing trees, it was a very unique way, but a very fruitful way, so to speak, of growing trees. The trees were bigger, the trees were hardier, the trees were able to survive harsh weather. Like he had everything down, like super nerdy about like these trees. And he wasn't a tree farmer to speak of. He was actually a dentist who, for whatever reason, started researching and learning about growing trees. And so he wanted to, start this tree farm, and a group of us invested in the tree farm, bought the tree farm, bought the land, invested in the business. And a few of us had policies, and we put that money, instead of investing directly in the tree farm, buying the property and the business, we put it into our policies first, our specially designed whole life policies, and then took a loan to invest in the tree farm, the land and the business.
Thus creating a dual asset.
It's actually the 3 assets, right? Because we bought the land, we also invested in the business, and we put the money into the policy that is the business.
Triple
right?
threat.
So triple threat right there. And So let's fast forward to 10 years. We're getting these really beautiful checks every single month. Just found out those checks are going to go up. And
Is this for lumber? Are these for lumber?
no, they're landscaping trees.
Landscaping.
Oh, I was going to say, because I guess you get some checks coming in with the lumber prices these days, right?
Unbelievable. The amount of appreciation, the land itself, the appreciation in the business. There is a lot of money in landscaping.
So you guys were like growing arborvitaes and things like that? Just
yes, that you would use, like, you know, when you've got your home and you want to landscape. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. It's a tremendous business.
And they don't need to grow as big because every, probably 2 years are cutting them and pulling them out, right?
No, they don't. No, they don't.
How fast?
There's a cycle between 2 and 4 years, depending on the type of tree.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, you're not waiting for it to mature to 50 feet.
To 50, exactly. Exactly. And, you know, this also goes back to my relationship with Nelson Nash, which we've talked about. You know, I probably wouldn't have had the mindset of investing in trees if I hadn't had exposure to forestry and long-term thinking and, you know, Nelson's background. And so it's just so amazing how all these different experiences and people that come in our life and our mentors, they shape and inform decisions that we make in the future, which is why we talk about the dual asset strategy so much and the 100-year mindset so much, you know, because we want people to be informed in their actions. Think about the long-term consequences, the long-term objectives of their actions. Mm-hmm. And a relationship I had with Nelson Nash that started over 20 years ago, and he talked about trees. I didn't know anything about trees, right? And here comes this opportunities with trees, and I'm like, that's a great business. I'm in, and I get it's going to take some time to see a profit, but I'm in it for the long haul. And here we are. And it's a legacy business. My son will inherit that business. And his children can. I mean, it is a long-term business. So
that leads me to this question. I mean, you've painted the picture so beautifully. You've made the analogy, but can you really make that analogy for everybody of how, you know, the whole life policy is to the tree farm? You just said the legacy. That's what the whole life policy will give you, the long-term thinking, the long-term outlook. What that analogy, can you go into that analogy a little bit deeper?
Sure. And I hope I touch on what it is that you want me to talk about. You know, when you start a policy, just like when you start a business, like you start the tree farm, when you start investing in real estate, when you start
plant
investing
the seed,
in
2 to 4 years, you get the tree, right?
Yes.
You're planting a seed.
Yeah.
You know, and your seeds are dollars in the policy. And yes, in the early years, you don't have a return. You don't have as much as what you've put in. In the later years, just like our checks that we're getting from the tree farm, there's nothing we could do to stop those checks, right? Even if the business burns, we've got insurance to cover the business, right? So once you plant those seeds and you water it and you feed it and you love on it, and you have objectives for it to be there for the long term, it can't help but serve you and love on you. And it's not just about us, it's about my son and his children and that generational wealth that's being created. It's also, how cool is it for a child? And when we bought the farm, he was with us. We went out and looked at it. You know, it was a family thing. How cool for him to know, you know what? I could own a farm. My parents are buying a tree farm. I can do this in my life. I could do that in my life, just like you guys are doing with your kids in multifamily, right? You're taking them on the properties. Look what we've built in terms of a real estate empire.
Yeah, but Teresa, you had some HGTV stuff going there. You could have been Joanna Gaines, you know, running through the trees with your kids. That's attractive to people. Coming up to like an apartment building, they're going, okay, Jake, you know, you had the HGTV moment there with your kid for a second.
Teresa,
you just
didn't have a film crew.
That's right.
Let me ask you though. A lot of people listening to the show, they want to have that long-term mindset. What finally did it do for you to say, I need to stop thinking about transactionally and start thinking long-term, start adopting the dual asset strategy for myself, because I see other people doing it. What was it in your life? I mean, you said you touched upon Nelson Nash, but anything else in your life that, man, this long-term thing, I have to put myself into that long-term.
Well, I've got to tell you, I think my mother had a big influence in me in that regard, and from a health perspective and from a skin perspective. I'm 57 years old. When you meet me, you don't know I'm that age, but I started taking care of my health and my age and my skin very, very young. I grew up in Miami where it's super hot, right? And so my mother talked to me about, when you're older, when you're my age, you want to have good skin. You got to take care of it when you're younger, right? So I think, and I'm also wired to think of, if I take an action, there are going to be consequences. And what are the first, second, third, fourth, fifth order consequences to my actions? So very young, I was thinking long term. When I met Nelson, he was completely aligned with how I was thinking. He just used different words and different concepts to think long term. So really, 100-year mindset is not just about the dual asset strategy or real estate or finance or investments. It's about every area of your life, from your health, from your skin, from your relationships, from your children, from your grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren that you have no idea who they are, right? You may never meet them. It encompasses every area of your life, Gino.
Hey, gang, here's the thing. If you don't want to take it from Teresa, Blackstone, okay, world's most successful real estate investment company, John Gray from Blackstone was asked a very similar question. His response was, invest in assets that you can understand and hold for the long term. Okay? It's the dual asset strategy. And this is coming from Blackstone, folks. Like a great policy that you can borrow from and put it right into a multifamily vehicle if that's your thing, or a tree farm if that's what you got your head wrapped around. And I'm going to pick your brain on this because Gino knows I'm into this stuff. I love landscaping. I got a juniper farm out here if anyone wants to know. But I'm gonna get with you on that later, Teresa. So
I didn't know you had a juniper farm, and I was at your property. I didn't see that. But I want to say something about or the dual asset strategy. The policies, they are designed from an actuarial perspective to endow. I know these are technical terms. Just ignore that for a minute. To 121 years of age, they are designed with 100 years in mind, or 121 years of age. It endows. So it's right in line with everything that we're talking about.
Love that.
Wonderful. G-Dad, wrap us up here.
Wow. From $3.25 an hour to multifamily Maverick.
Blackstone.
That's all I got to say on this one.
And his property, right? From 325 to having junipers.
I always learn something new when I'm on these calls with Teresa. It really is all about the long-term mindset. It really is about investing in assets and investing for the long term. I want everyone to think of themselves as a farmer. Both my parents are immigrants. My dad would always have these farming analogies. You got to plant the seed. You have to water the seed. You have to pray to God that the hail doesn't destroy the seed. Then you got to weed it. Then you got to stake the tomatoes and you got to let them grow. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work on the front end, and you have to have faith. And you have to be guided by people who know what they're doing. That's why the real estate the professionals at the 100-year, they know how to design these policies. They know that they've had the results of the last 100 years plus with whole life. And I think if you're guided and you have that long-term mindset and you have focus on where you want to put your money to work, it's not just investing your money. You want to create assets for yourself and for your life. You're creating a living benefit and you're creating a death benefit with this. All you can have your cake and you can eat it too. They're not mutually exclusive. You can have investments and you can have whole life. They both fit into your life. So Jake, it's important. We keep hammering this, but I want everyone to know the success that we've had. The two salmon colored guys on this podcast right now. The only reason why we've been successful for the last 7 or 8 years is we've been committing, figuring it out, and thinking about the long term, not about the shiny object
Staying
syndrome.
in our lane.
And just continuing to grow and continuing to invest for the long term, not for next quarter, not even for next year, for the next 3 to 5 years. So don't make decisions based on an investment for tomorrow. Think about how it's going to impact you, your family, and your.
And I can back up everything he's saying. We bought a ton of deals back in the 2013, whatever you want to say, for 30 a door. Guess what? We still own those deals. We bought them ourselves. You know how many guys out there buying them? Okay, we're going to syndicate it, and then they're running off to sell these things. Practice what you preach. You hold for the long term. You create real wealth. Gang, Teresa, Gino, thank you so much. This was awesome.
Thanks, everybody.
See you guys.